Welcome to Music is a Day Job, brought to you by the Concert app, the artist accelerator that allows artists to go from opener to headliner to touring and gives the fan the best experience in live independent music. You already know what time it is. Today, what we're going to talk about is, are all shows good? And now, here's the thing, we built an app, and that's the reason why we built the app, to actually answer this question. Um, are all shows good? Now, matters what you're using the shows for. So, yes, I believe the main form of income that you should be living off of as an artist should be show money, because that's the easiest. I guess you can't say really the easiest, but that's the one that you can actually create a blueprint to how you can actually live off of music. Um, some people are good enough to actually win it online, have the 10 million plays a month and stuff like that. And that's great. That's amazing. If you can actually pull that off and actually make good money doing that, more power to you. But for most of us artists, we're not able to turn over that online level of views and like paying to do whatever, because I know a lot of people pay for different types of promotion and stuff like that. So shows has always been the only thing that I've been able to create a consistent amount of income from all the time, and I knew how to control it constantly. So a lot of people come and ask me like, well, are all shows good? Should I just stack on shows? Now, the reason I made the concert app is because all shows aren't good. So I made the concert app so you could actually have a blueprint. And inside the concert app, you're able to build that resume to say, hey, I need to have upward momentum, and I also need to be able to expand. Now, a lot of people will just do tons of shows and just they'll hear what I say and they'll naturally just go do tons and tons of shows, and they'll say, hey, I'm just doing tons of shows with all these one off promoters. That doesn't make sense, because when you do tons of shows with one off promoters, there is no actual upward momentum or resume built. So unless you're already at the level that you can do tons of Live Nation shows or AEG shows, then there really is no resume being held. It's just somebody just booked you for this show and that show and this show and that show. And what does it matter at the end of the day? Like, you might have made a little bit of money, but no one's keeping any calculations for you. No one's trying to get you into the next city. No one's trying to get you to become a headliner. No one's trying to do anything. So at this point, you're just doing tons of shows just to do tons of shows, which can be like just running on a treadmill and you're just staying in place. So the reason I built the app is because that's when you're able to go like, hey, I can actually see in a ranking system when you're ready to start moving to another city, when you're ready to start heading up to be a headliner, when you're ready to start touring, when you're ready for all this. So then when you do shows with me and you do multiple shows, I'm able to help you keep track of this to the point that you can start moving correctly and actually see your like business, because I like to call it what you do as an artist, your business, grow. You can see you as an artist grow. You can see your growth in all the places and all the people you are touching and turning into fans. Now, inside that understanding, how many shows should you do? This is very debative of how many shows can you handle. How many shows should you do? In some aspects, can be seen as do enough shows that your fans don't either get bored and you can keep it fresh, and at the same space do enough shows that you can survive off of. So at my peak, I was doing every city that I was known in once every around 3 months. So I would do every city. I'd do Denver once every 3 months, um, with possible once every month if I was doing different types of shows. So one headliner from me at a big venue once every 3 months, and then I would possibly do some club dates and some spot dates inside of that. Um, in smaller cities, I would do less shows and just do once every 3 months. Uh, I've watched gentlemen do, well, women and gentlemen, but I've seen people do once every month. I've seen people do once every 2 months and actually pull it off, and their fans want to come see them all the time. Because you got to think the idea of this is that people go to the club, spend the same amount of money, and get to hear the same DJ play the same music in the same sequence. So literally, someone should be able to come see you once a month, to at least once a month, to see you perform it. So if you think of it in that idea, you should be able to actually do at least once a month. And I never got to the point of doing it at that rate, but you should be able to. Um, Nationals versus local shows. Well, I don't like to call them local shows. Let's say independent shows, because they're not local shows; they're independent shows. National shows. If you're not using the national show to your benefit, then it doesn't make sense to me. So when I say are all shows good, um, national shows for the leverage, if you know how to use the leverage, makes sense. But I watch dudes just talk like, man, I just want to do national shows. Well, what are you benefiting from it? You get to kick it. You get to kick it on stage in front of a crowd of people, but half these people ain't gonna turn over for you to be your fan because they're here to see something specific. So I don't get what you're doing it for. So then, unless you already have an installed fan base and you can go to the national show and you can actually pull fans from that and have fans want to like come be your fan because you have so many fans in that building, making that contagious feeling of, hey, I need to support this kid. Because if you have 100 people in there and it's 1,000 people in the venue and those 100 people screaming your song, tons of people are going to come and be like, hey, maybe I should listen to this kid. And if you have that leverage and you're using it for that concept, then yeah, do the national show. But if you're going to the national show and you don't really have fans and you're just selling tickets to people that are already fans of this famous person, then what are you benefiting from it? I don't get it. So then you're just kind of doing national shows, just do national shows, which looks cool, I guess. But I watch people do tons of national shows and nothing. Like, doesn't matter because at the end of the day, they never really found their own fan base. So then that's the difference between independent shows, because independent shows, you have a higher chance to turn over the consumer because those consumers are there also on the idea of, I'm here and ready to like independent music. So then you have a higher chance of making them turn into your fan. So that's how you can kind of decipher the difference between like what you're ready to consistently do and why you should do one way, which even though I do have a business, you know what I'm saying? I do have a business that's based off this. That's what I'm creating. So, but this is the truth because that's what I did before this was a business. I knew that it didn't make sense for me to do the national shows if I didn't have a fan base there. The only time it made sense was if I was, for instance, even if the only time it made sense when I didn't have a fan base there was when I was already moving and I was like, I had my own fan base, but at the same pace, I needed to make a look of the consistency of shows I was doing. So then, because I was already doing tons of headliners myself, when I jump on a show that's with whoever, like at one point we did one with like ASAP Ferg, and we did some with just a lot of artists. We did like of course the Summer Jams, Migos, all that stuff like that. Like when we were doing those shows, whether my fan base showed up or not, it made a look because I was already doing headliners myself. So then the consistency made it look the way I needed to make it look, and that was what I needed to build, like with sponsors and stuff like that. So I just believe that tons of we get talked into the idea of the glamour of the national show, and it really doesn't benefit the artist a lot of times unless they know what they want. Um, so that's how I kind of see it with are all shows good. If you have a plan with any show, that's what you want to do, and that's what we're here to help you with. Is how can you build that plan? If I do this show and I know where I'm at, how many shows do I need to do to start getting to the next level? How many shows do I need to do to start expanding to another market? How many shows do I need to do to get to a headliner? How many shows do I need to do to start touring? And that's the goal, is to figure that out. And so that's how you should look at, are all shows good? Once again, this music is a day job and brought to you by Concert.